Yes, sir.
All right, so talking about these free agents and the buyouts, recently we had Blake Griffin, which we spoke about in another video. If you haven't watched that, make sure you go watch that. Blake Griffin signed with the Brooklyn Nets. Now, in that earlier video, I said I feel like Blake doesn't have a spot in the league right now, and I stick to it. But I want to hear what Rob and Tyler have to say first.
See, I think Blake Griffin, he's gonna do the minimum. I mean, when you go to a situation like the Brooklyn Nets, they don't need Blake Griffin to be Blake Griffin. They need Blake Griffin to be serviceable. Of course, right now they have Jeff Green in that position, which is the small ball 5. Jeff Green right now can't really bang with some of the big men in the league. Of course, Blake Griffin can't either, but at least Blake Griffin is better. He's more serviceable. So, for example, in the playoffs, when they eventually go against somebody like, let's say, a Joel Embiid, if he's there, hypothetically, I mean, if the Brooklyn Nets don't necessarily add anybody else, you would want Blake Griffin to be guarding that man over a Jeff Green, or even if you go against another. Or even if you go against another team like the Indiana Pacers, you want Blake Griffin against Domantas Sabonis and not Jeff Green. So, of course, I mean, he's going to be better than the options that they have right now. But in regards to if he's going to be a severe game changer, I don't necessarily think so. The thing about Blake Griffin, though, is the fact that he's not going to be, rattled by anything that happens in the playoffs. Jeff Green, of course, he's been there before, but you don't necessarily know exactly how he's going to react. Blake Griffin, I believe, is going to be a little bit more steady. He's going to be a better player to actually play in the playoffs when they actually do get to the bigger games. Hypothetically, even if they do go to the finals. So I think that was a very good addition for that. But as I said, he's just going to be there for the minimum. He's going to do what he needs to do. They're not going to need him to do much, so of course that's not going to be a lot.
Man, I think Blake Griffin is going to be a game changer.
What?
Don't know, man. Listen, I understand Blake Griffin. It was averaging about 12 and 6, and they dunk all year. But life being, listen, he wanted to be a Clipper for life. Then they traded him to Detroit. I don't got no problem with Detroit, but they didn't have nothing going on. It's easy to get discouraged playing over there. But when you were around greatness, when you were around Kyrie, you were around James Harden, you were around Kevin Durant, and you don't have to be the main guy, you have to play with zero pressure, there are zero expectations for you, I think you guys are going to see a really motivated Blake Griffin. You saw what James Harden was able to do with guys like Clint Capella. What you think James Harden going to do with a guy like Blake Griffin? And like you said, he's not asked to do much. Anything more that he does, it might be impressive. He's going beyond what we expect for him. So I think Blake Griffin, he's definitely going to bring a different dynamic to the team. He's going to bring that low post scoring. If he decides to be motivated, he might bring Showtime back. I think Blake Griffin is going to be a really big addition to this team.
All right, so before Blake even signed anywhere, I said I don't feel like he has a place in the league. And the only way I'm taking that back is if he goes back to the same Blake that when he first got to the Pistons. When Blake first got to the Pistons, my man was averaging 25 and 8. Now, unless he was, like Tyler said, if he lost motivation in these last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, and my guy just wakes up and he's like, all right, rubs his hands, and he's like, back to business. And he comes out balling like that, the league, okay, I take it back, Blake has a place in the league, but he needs to get back to that. I saw something on Twitter and I found it funny. It was an old school wrestling clip with somebody who was rolling in on a wheelchair and he had his leg covered up with a cast. And when he got to the ring, my guy took the blanket off and he was perfectly fine. If that's Blake Griffin, watch out. That's a 3-peat in Brooklyn.
See, I get where you guys are coming from, because especially with Miami Heat, my favorite team, we got Jay Crowder at the trade deadline. Before we got him, he was shooting about 20-something% from the three-point line. We got him, he was shooting close to 50% from the three-point line. So I get where y'all coming from. But I get where y'all coming from. But I 100% doubt we're going to see anywhere close to what Blake Griffin was when he first got to the Pistons. That was one of the best players in the league at the time. He was averaging like damn near 25, 10, and 7. That right there is not happening again. That's not happening again. I think right now, I mean, of course, he should be a more efficient scorer right now. He's shooting about 30-something% from the field and about 20-something% from the 3-point line. I expect those numbers to bump up a little bit. Of course, I do believe he's going to be a little bit more motivated to play for the Brooklyn Nets, and of course to play with his old swingman DeAndre Jordan. I just don't necessarily think it's going to be anything too crazy. I mean, he's going to be a serviceable backup big man. He's going to be a serviceable playmaker, a serviceable passer. He's going to be trustworthy. You're going to trust him to handle the ball in the playoffs, but that's going to pretty much be it. I don't necessarily think it's going to be anything too game-changing.
Hey man, we'll see what Blake got to offer. I hope he does turn into the Blake of 2019, but I kind of got to side with Rob. I highly doubt it. And hey, being in this area, I would love to see the Brooklyn Nets win a championship. That would be great, but they got their work cut out for them.
It's the Knicks town. Talk about.
You cut that.